CHGO White Sox Podcast, coming to you live from Studio B of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. You got the full CHGO White Sox crew with you. I'm Sean Anderson. That is the returning Vinnie Duber, the sniffly Vinnie Duber.
Apologies to those who are going to be listening on the audio. Like, I feel like when you're watching the video, you're like, oh, it's, you know, I'm distracted by what's going on here. When you're listening on the audio, you're gonna hear some sniffles. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Hey, and Vinnie comes across real clear in words that he wrote on ALLCITY.com. You could check out his latest article about Yoán Moncada, our starting topic, up at ALLCITY.com. It's the first thing. It's the most recently published article. You cannot miss it.
Make it easy for you.
CHGO.com. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
He is our CHGO White Sox community leader, and he once said that Yoán Moncada is a top 10 third baseman in all of baseball.
I said it was top 7 third baseman in all of baseball, which was true.
Very Bill Simmons of you to be that specific.
It was very true.
Maybe, just maybe, if he's healthy enough, we'll see that again. We're being produced today by Joey Spathis, the reigning goon of the night.
Thank you, Sean.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I don't think you might know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Joey was very happy.
I was happy, and I am still happy. Thank you.
Glad
Thanks,
you're
everyone.
happy.
Appreciate it.
And we're glad to see Slush Poppy joining us in the live chat, KPW as well. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button and subscribing to the CHGO YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any CHGO Bulls post games, Blackhawks post games, Bears coverage, White Sox, Cubs coverage, whatever you may need for the Chicago sports world. Also want to give a shout out to our new diehards, Jackie, Nico, Aaron, William, Edie. It's E-D-I.
Edie.
Let's go, Edie. Mick, Larry, and Jim.
All right.
That's fun.
That's
just
a lot.
to
Mick Jagger is a CHGO diehard?
No, Mick, Larry.
No, it just says Mick, though. You don't have their last name.
Yeah,
it could be Mick Jagger.
It could be Mick Jagger. There's a lot of Micks out there.
He does love Chicago.
Does he?
Oh, loves Chicago. Mick Jagger, this is his spot.
It's the home of the blues, man.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought he sung about Detroit. Does he have any songs about it? I don't think it was a Detroit song, right?
Well, so I think you're thinking of She Was Hot, which mentions Chicago and Detroit.
Oh.
Yeah. And New
Look
York.
at me. I totally knew that. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of, Vinny. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
All right, let's jump into Yoán Moncada because there was a very interesting and grabbing quote from Yoán Moncada just right there. I think God has something for me, something good for me, and hopefully it's this year. You know, it's good outward thinking for Yoán Moncada, just that something good's going to happen in his life in the future. I also hope that it comes in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, hey, as I wrote today, I think when he starts bringing a higher power into the conversation, it shows you kind of how high the stakes are. And listen, this is a guy who, you know, you wrote. I read the description of the podcast that you wrote, Sean, and I think that you kind of brought up the question of, is it really as easy as being him being healthy? Right? Is that it? And I guess the answer to the question is that we don't know. But we can't get to an answer to that question until he is healthy, because since 2019, when he had that awesome season, 140 OPS plus, he's getting a 10th place MVP vote, as we all know. The production hasn't been there, but you can pretty much point to health as being the key reason in every single one of those seasons. Now, does that mean that had he been completely healthy, it's 140 OPS plus every year from there on out? We don't know. But the point is that he wasn't healthy and he couldn't let us know. He wasn't able to do it. So it really comes down to, and again, Sox fans are sick of hearing this because it is the same old story, right? Maybe if he's healthy, maybe if him and Eloy are healthy, you know, it applies to other guys as well. Maybe they will be that player that we always heard they were capable of being. We saw it a little bit at the end of last year. I think over his last 40 or so games, he was excellent. But again, that hasn't been done over the course of a season because he hasn't had a full season. And so he joked that he's, you know, preparing to play 202 games. It's a funny joke. It's a good use of hyperbole. So. It's a good use of hyperbole there, but I don't think anybody's expecting the White Sox to play more than 162 games this year, but I think the bigger question is, does anybody expect Yoán Moncada to play more than 162 games with the White Sox the rest of his career? And I think, when we talk about high stakes for him, the high stakes are very clearly, very, enumerated. There are 25 million reasons that he is going to want to have a very healthy and a very strong year in 2024 because there's that team option for 2025 worth $25 million.
And if that's the motivation, so be it. Like if he feels like, hey, I'm making 24 plus this year, and if I play really well this year, they're going to pick up my option, baby. A walk year sometimes inspires the best play you're going to get. So, yeah, I think that the health of Yoán Moncada, as it is always, is the most important thing for Yoán Moncada because he's always had kind of core issues. So 1 year was the obliques, last year was the back. So these things are very central to a swing and a throw. And so these are the things that he does well. And remember, he's a switch hitter, so they affect him differently because he's swinging from different sides of the plate. But yeah, Yoán Moncada being good or being healthy and good are key to White Sox being successful. Same thing with Eloy Jimenez, as you brought up, Vinny. But I will not put my money on Yoán Moncada being actually healthy this year because we haven't seen it in a long time.
Well, that's a lot of weight for two guys too. For the White Sox to be successful, those guys need to be healthy. I know what you're saying, but let's just focus on Yoán for a sec because
either
the question, because the description that I was trying to get to, like last year we saw 92 games and 54 of those games were 2021 Yoán Moncada. He had a 114 weighted runs created plus. You saw in 2021 his last full season, 144 games. He had a 116 weighted runs created plus. He was a 4-WAR player. If they get a 4-WAR player at third base, they'll be hella happy. I mean, they'll be over the moon. So it is, will we see a true healthy Yoán Moncada for the start of the season? And hopefully we can see that for the full year. Or again, will it be, them rushing him back maybe purposely too soon? Because we saw in 2022, he played 101 games, more games than he did in 2022, but he had a 77 weighted runs created plus or OPS plus, right? He just was a completely different player. He didn't have that same pop, and they were relying on him to be in the AL Central division, right? They needed Yoán Moncada back because Jake Berger wasn't hitting 40 bombs just yet. It does seem that as long as Yoán Moncada can kind of manage those injuries, there is still a really talented baseball player in there.
Yeah, and if he goes for a 4-WAR season, if a WAR is $8 million, as it still was, if it's still that number, he's a discount for this year and for next year. So, yeah, there's a good player in there, no matter if he is hurt, because I saw the player that did show up last year, the couple home runs in Houston. I was like, okay, here we go. And then, of course, the injury bug hits Yoán Moncada like it does every year. But when he did come back, and I thought it was rushed back, Yoán said, I'm just going to play. And he probably played through that back injury. And eventually I read in your article, Vinny, that he said it just started feeling better. And then you could see the play at the end of the year started getting better. And he's probably, fingers crossed, not hurt right now. So he can go through a spring training. Because we saw last year, he was the, MVP or one of the people on the all World Baseball League team. Because he played so well. And then he, of course, came back and got hurt. So, yeah, there's a player in there, even if he is hurt, that can give you value, but not maybe the $25 million value that his number is this year or next year.
He says he's feeling good. He says he's feeling a lot better than he did last year, obviously. And I think the main thing that you look for is, did you feel it at all at any point? You know what I mean? And he said no. He said he hasn't felt it during his training this offseason at all. It all sets up for him to be healthy going into spring training, but he's been healthy going into spring training the last couple of years, and we know what happened. I mean, he last year obviously looked so great in the WBC, like you mentioned, and then boom, as soon as he comes back to Sox camp, he's got a back injury. Yeah. And then the year prior, the day before the season starts, he's put on the IL with an oblique injury. So showing up to spring training healthy hasn't been a problem. It's getting out of spring training healthy that has been a problem for Yoán Moncada. So listen, I think, Sean, to your point, yeah, absolutely. This guy has so much talent left, right? I mean, we see it every day. You can see the athleticism that he has by the way he plays third base, right? I mean, it's one thing to be a guy who might be able to hit, and that's all you're going to be able to do. This guy is obviously a talented athlete, and you don't need to look at anything he does with the bat in order to know it because his defense is so good over there at third base. If he can just, it does really seem like at times, as long as he stays healthy and nothing's bothering him, there's going to be some consistency on offense. Now, is it going to be the MVP type that you thought he was going to be back in 2019? It all remains to be seen because we haven't seen him healthy since that year. But it does seem like get over that hurdle of being bothered by things, whether it is COVID or a back injury or just the regular, way a baseball season plays out where, oh man, I got a tight hammy today. I got a tight quad today. If you can just get past that stuff, then we can see what Yoán Moncada can do. And I think that's what he thought that he showed at the end of last year was, hey, I was finally feeling better. That back injury was gone. It stopped bothering me. And all of a sudden, boom, it's the guy that I know I can be. So we'll see if that's what comes to fruition this year because there's, like we have talked about, there's a lot riding on it for him.
Dan from the 219. You get the 2021 4-WAR season from Yoán Moncada. You pick up the $25 million option. Like I said, if a win is $8 million, that's a savings right there. That's $32 million you're getting on value from Yoán Moncada. I would think about it because you really don't have anybody coming down the pipeline to replace Yoán Moncada. Sean?
Well, Colson Montgomery.
Well, he plays shortstop for the time being.
It really doesn't seem like he's going to play shortstop. I mean, from most reports, it does not seem that his size and athleticism is going to make him be a shortstop. I don't think it's a good sign when you read in Fangraphs that Eric Longerhagen is saying that routine plays for most shortstops don't look like routine plays for Colson Montgomery at shortstop. He's an infielder, I think, at third base.
Well, that's fine. That's a different conversation. I think the point is, what can Yoán Moncada do, or can he do anything to be on the 2025 White Sox team? And I think that the answer is yes. And I think, though, what it is that it might change the planning a little bit, right? Because Chris Getz is out here, as we can all evaluate, he has yet to put together a roster that is going to compete in 2024, right? We don't think that this team is going to contend for the AL Central title. So the unanswered question is he going to put together a roster that can contend for the 2025 AL Central title? And if you get a Yoán Moncada like you got in 2019, putting up those kinds of numbers, all of a sudden $25 is a relatively inexpensive for that, or relatively affordable, I should say, for that kind of player and that sort of output. And guess what? It puts you way closer to contending in 2025 than just saying, all right, bye, we got to save some money. So I think that there is a lot to be determined. It kind of goes into the conversation we've been having for a few weeks now, which is, why are they making these short-term moves? What do they need to figure out in 2025 to make in 2024 rather, to set themselves up for 2025? Well, I think that a lot can change. There's a big difference between Moncada and Eloy disappointed again and they're going to be gone because the options didn't get picked up, or Moncada and Eloy finally showed up. And all of a sudden, we've got a middle of the order that we can do something with in 2025. Again, it's not going to be an easy call because I'm sure Chris Getz has long-term planning in mind, long-term financial planning in mind with the way that we've seen the payroll get cut dramatically this offseason so far. But what Yoán Moncada and to a less expensive degree Eloy Jimenez can do is make that decision a tough one. And, I mean, they signed him to the contract. $25 million is a lot of money, and we saw him make the decisions for less money to say bye to Liam Hendricks, to say bye to Tim Anderson. But those guys were coming off years in which, either in Anderson's case, it was the worst year of his career, or in Hendricks' case, he barely played. So Moncada the best he can do is to make that decision very difficult by putting up an all-star or better caliber season.
And Matt brings up Brian Ramos as well, who, of course, to Kylie McDaniel, who's the only top 100 prospect list that I look at, right? The only one that I take is Bible, wink, wink, because Brian Ramos is 91. So Brian Ramos is a top 100 prospect on that list, so that's the only one that matters. So, I mean, there are options where I think even if Yoán has a great year, the Sox look at obviously the budget. You could just cut $25 million. That probably looks, good to a business owner. But also,
does Jerry Reinsdorf care about stuff like that, though?
Not at all.
About saving money?
Not at all. Not with the Bulls or the White Sox.
That's part of his... Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No, I'm trying to answer your question as honestly as I can. I don't think he cares, no. But...
Brian Ramos.
Joey derailed this train.
Yeah, it's really easy to derail.
I'm sorry.
It's so fine. I don't think that not to be a complete nerd, but WAR doesn't cost $8 million anymore, Grandpa. It's $9.3 million.
Oh, so it's even more. Maybe.
So I don't think that. I don't think that he can have that great of a year that you can convince a GM to pick up a $25 million option on a guy that has had so many question marks on back injuries and a guy that's not even connected to him. I mean, Chris Getz is not the guy that traded for him. He's not Rick Hahn. He's not the whole rebuild thing. I think Chris Getz has a lot less connection to that team where he could sever ties. And I think he has more ties to Brian Ramos and Colson Montgomery. So I think that he'd rather probably take the cheaper way out. And I don't know exactly what their ideas are. They might see Ramos and Colson as easy fill-ins, and then, hey, we have more issues at right field, and let's go spend big money on a right fielder. We need an ace now that we traded Cease away. Let's go spend money on a pitcher. We know Jerry doesn't like that. But I don't know. I think that could really free up a lot of options for them if they cut that $25 million.
Absolutely. But here's the thing: we're looking a year down the road with so little of the puzzle constructed. And I think the point that I'm trying to make is I would wager that the vast majority of White Sox fans are like, this is it. Bye, Yoán Moncada. We'll see you in the funny pages after this year. I'm just saying there is a guy in there, and if that sort of season is possible out of this guy, there's a universe that exists in which, oh boy, Moncada, Robert, Eloy, that's a pretty good middle of the lineup all of a sudden after they all had good years in 2024. Man, maybe this team could contend in 2025. I think there's a lot. I think that the White Sox front office still has a lot of learning to do on this team and where it's going to be a year from now. And part of it has to do with the guys who are already there.
And Schles Poppy, if he has a good first half of the year, they're already probably thinking about sending him to another team because, as Vinny and Sean have brought up, that's a risk that they probably don't want to take to say, okay, let me roll dice and see if Yoan's completely healthy. Yeah, he's only going to be age 30 next year, but somebody will give me some type of prospect instead of me rejecting that $25 million and getting nothing back. I'm good.
Would you rather have Matt Chapman or Yoan Moncada?
Matt Chapman.
No one wants Matt Chapman right now. I mean, Matt Chapman's still a free agent.
No one wants him.
Someone wants him. They just don't want to pay him.
Boris wants to pay.
So respectfully, I think he could start hotter than hell. I think that he could have a 250 weighted runs created plus and be playing Brooks Robinson defense at third base. I don't think there's any way that the White Sox can get a team to take on Yoán Moncada's contract.
It wouldn't be taken on.
You would have to pay money. Yes, you would. There's $24 million. So what?
Does it automatically go?
Half that, but there's $5 million signing bonus. We saw no one wanted Clevenger signing bonus for that too.
So this is different people.
I don't think that
I'm
there's
just
a
saying,
world that he can make himself.
If he is traded, does that next year's option automatically go through? Okay, then I'm sure he's a very valuable at half of that year, $12.5 million for some contending team, a switch head.
17.5. Huh? It's 17.5 because you're gonna have to take the buyout. So the White Sox would probably have to throw in like $5 million to at least beat the buyout or something.
Cool. It'll be less people coming on the return. That's fine, but it's better than getting nothing when you just buy him out and say bye, Yoán Moncada.
I don't think that he'll make himself valuable, but we'll see. All right,
I'm gonna call Yoán and tell him you said that. Put this on the wall.
All right,
motivated. Sean doubts you and doubts God. By proxy.
All right. Any other thoughts on the God comment or Yoán Moncada comments?
No, I mean, I think, listen, Yoán has gotten a pretty bad rap over his time here for the way he carries himself, which is unfortunate because it's just his personality and the way he acts. And a lot of people read into that as having less than ideal amount of passion or something like that.
But what does that mean? Like you're just talking about the music video stuff? Like, I don't know.
No.
I've never seen anything from Moncada that doesn't show that he's just locked in. I don't know.
You're alone. There's a lot of people who
God.
think that he acts like someone who doesn't want to be there or acts like someone who is just collecting a paycheck. And I think when you hear from the guy and if you read the words, if you go over to the website, it's a guy who's talking about being motivated to prove something wrong, or not necessarily wrong, but to prove that he can do what he knows that he can do. And so when you hear that kind of thing, you want to see how if it pays off in any way. He has been physically prevented from doing that for now 4 seasons in a row, and it's become more He spent more of his major league career hurt than not. And I think to give that guy a healthy year to see what he could do would be very interesting.
Well, and you brought up the honor that he received at the World Baseball Classic, being the third baseman of the World Baseball Classic team, along with future White Sox Salvador Perez, who is the catcher. Yoán Moncada is the first White Sox to ever be named to a World Baseball Classic team.
There you go.
There was Jimmy Rollins, but he was a Philly at the time. There was Ken Griffey Jr., but he was a Red at the time. There were some guys who wore a White Sox uniform, but truly, Yoán was the only White Sox at the time to be a World Baseball Classic.
One thing he did say that is also in the story, he says he wants to stick around. And of course, as we always say, why wouldn't you say that? But he said it, so there you go. He's on record as having said he would love for the White Sox to continue giving him money.
Because if he sticks around, that $25 million next year is like, baby, $50 million in 2 years? Let's go.
Hey, I mean, at worst, he's walking away with $29 million, that $5 million buyout. I mean, it's not too bad.
Just think when we signed him, when Rick Hahn signed him, I thought it was a dumb move by Yoán to do that. Hey, man, that was a good signing for Yoán Moncada to get his money right.
Well, get his money right, but then also if he does get cut for just making $25 million and he's only, 30 instead of 31 hitting the free agent market, like that's even better for you. You'd rather be hitting it, with the idea of like, oh, hey, this guy can bounce back. He's finally coming into it as an adult body. He's hitting his prime. Then we could finally pay this guy. He might get a second contract just by getting cut. So it might have been real smart by Yoán Moncada. Vinny, do you have a FOCO read for us?
I do.
Why don't you tell people about FOCO? I'll tell people about Charlie the Bacon Guy after, and then we'll talk a little bit more White Sox.
Normally, when we're out on Studio A, you notice our wonderful set decorations. The two bobbleheads donated to us by FOCO. Southpaw waving that classic orange White Sox flag.
Classic.
And TA getting ghosted by the Red Line train at Sox 35th. How about this? If the Sox move to that new stadium, they have to change the name of that L stop. It's going to have to just be 35th
Street.
Yeah. And then they'll have to change the new one to Sox, whatever. Maybe it'll just be Sox.
It might just be the 78.
Sox stop. Well, that would be confusing as hell. That the 78 stop is north of 78th Street, that would be very confusing.
Aren't you in a read?
Yeah. Go get fitted out in the best sports gear around. FOCO has hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. It's always baseball season, so go ahead and get some Aloha shirts, straw hats, polos, and that wonderful bag set for tailgating out in the parking lot outside Guaranteed Rate Field on a very chilly March 28th. They've got everything you need for a game. You've seen the set decorations now. Go and show them some love. Check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO10 for 10% off.
We'll bring up fighting about L-stop namings and renamings later. We'll tell people about FOCO first. And Charlie the Bacon Guy. I know Charlie just responded to you because you were wondering what Canadian bacon was, and you could find out what Charlie the Bacon Guy's bacon is.
Real bacon.
Right now. Charlie the Bacon Guy is based out of Woodridge, Illinois, and he makes craft bacon and bacon jams in over 35 different flavors. The bacon and bacon jams are naturally cured, preservative-free products. There aren't any ingredients that Charlie can't pronounce himself involved in the process, unlike other most store-bought bacons. It is vacuum sealed and freezes perfectly. The bacon lasts in the package up to 60 days in the fridge.
Damn.
It just says up to 60.
Well, I doubt it's minutes.
I doubt it's minutes too. So I would say it's 60 days, right?
It wouldn't be. Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
Or just pretend that you're using like lingo. It lasts up to 60.
Lasts up to 60.
That's what the kids
I think
say.
It's 60 days. 1 week after the seal is broken and 9 months in the freezer. Bacon jam lasts about 90 days in the fridge and up to 1 year in the freezer. Some of the favorites are maple pepper, rosemary, chorizo, French toast, Korean barbecue, jardiniere, ranch, and Old Bay. Some bacon jam flavors are original, bourbon, and spicy. The bacon jam goes perfectly on anything. You can put it on scrambled eggs, toast with or without jelly, cracker, burgers, grilled cheese, charcuterie boards, or Charlie's favorite, the spoon. Starting now, you could save 10% on your order at charliethebaconguy.com when you use the code CHGO at checkout. Again, you could save 10% on your order at charliethebaconguy.com when you use code CHGO at checkout. You can pick it up. It's the most efficient way, or he will deliver it to you. He can also meet you halfway or even ship it to you. He makes the bacon so you can bring it home. And if you want to contact him, again, charliethebaconguy.com, at charliethebaconguy on Instagram, at CZTheBaconGuy on Twitter, or you can email him at charliethebaconguy@gmail.com. Thank you, Charlie, and go support him. Go get yourself some nice, lovely, what's it called? Artisanal. I think artisanal is the word I want to use. Artisanal bacon.
I like
God bless.
like having bacon and then having it drop on the ground and then breaking up. That's the perfect bacon for me.
You want to drop your bacon on the floor?
Like crispy. Like
He's saying that he likes a really well done piece of bacon.
Oh, as fragile as glass.
Right.
Oh, there's nothing better. With a little burn on it.
I like it anything but raw, honestly. I mean, you can do it a little underdone. You can make it a little rubbery. I eat the, remember they used to have like the cooking sets that maybe your sister would have, and they have like the fake bacon strips. I'd even eat the plastic,
Oh, you're talking like a Fisher Price
Yeah,
kitchen.
like a Fisher Price piece of bacon.
Oh.
I just love bacon. I'll eat it anyway. But mostly Charlie the Bacon Guy. All right, let's get into, because we talked about Yoán Moncada, let's get into Tim Anderson. So TA hasn't signed anywhere yet.
He's not alone.
He's not alone. Matt Chapman hasn't signed anywhere. Cody Bellinger hasn't signed anywhere. I think Cody's countdown is up to 123 days.
Has Snell signed anywhere?
No, Snell hasn't signed.
Ian Snell certainly hasn't signed,
No.
but Blake Snell hasn't signed either. Yes.
You could just name a free agent. They probably haven't signed. So it's been real fun. But Tim Anderson is one of them. He's kind of in a weird market, though, because there's not really a shortstop out there. Like, there's Whit Merrifield. He's another middle infielder, but it's not really like a shortstop of his caliber yet. There's Tim Anderson. We heard some rumors of the Angels. They've been interested in everyone, but that was about 2 months ago. Why is TA not getting kicks on the tires?
I don't know 100%, but I'm sure that he's not thinking about taking a discount or taking what the teams are offering him. I'm thinking Tim probably thinks he is that player that showed up for those certain years, 19, 20, 21, and 22. Teams are looking at him and like, you're 23, Tim Anderson. You accept this deal. And so the market has gone slow. And as you said, who's looking for a no-hit / can't field shortstop? No one. Now, are there some teams that think they can get Tim Anderson back to Tim Anderson form and deal with whatever you get in the infield? Of course there are, but they want Tim Anderson at his price, at their price, not at Tim Anderson's price. So it might take some humbling by Tim and his agency to say, okay, I'm going to come in here, sign a major league contract, because I think he's still a major league talent. He's only, 29, 30 years old, and then just show out in spring training and the regular season, maybe a one-year deal to reestablish his worth and his value. But I think that they're working in two different area codes right now, and one of them has to blink, and the teams pretty much at this point have their shortstops already established.
Well, I think that's probably the same explanation as to why all those other guys haven't signed yet, right? Which is just free agent players and teams are playing a big game this offseason, and it's just that's why it's so slow moving. You've got teams just not wanting to pay what the market says that these guys probably should be worth, because when these guys do sign, they're signing for big money deals. Yes, but they're just the guys that are kind of in the middle there are getting squeezed out, and even some of the guys that are at the top right now. We saw it a few off seasons back. You remember Craig Kimbrell and Dallas Keuchel, their free agency lasting all the way past the draft. Yeah. Now it seems to be happening again on a much bigger scale, but we'll see what happens during the spring once teams show up to camp, that kind of thing. I'll say this. I've been saying it all off season long. You can't tell me Tim Anderson is better than all 30 current shortstops at the top of those depth charts in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, he's a top 30 shortstop.
He is a top 30 shortstop in Major League Baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Now, he's coming off a terrible, terrible season, and the timing is not good there for him. And I think you're probably right. A one-year prove-it deal probably makes the most sense. And you got to look at it from Tim Anderson's standpoint, too. 2 years ago this time, dude was one of the faces of baseball, probably. Mm-hmm. And now you've got a guy who's coming off just a horrendous offensive season, bad season in the field. He's not where he thought he was going to be when he hit free agency. He probably thought he was cruising for the kind of deals that were going out the last two off seasons to those big shortstop classes, and he's not a part of that for timing reasons first and foremost. Now, is it possible that he never gets back to where he was? Yeah, it's possible, but I watched Tim Anderson play long enough that I can think that he can get back to shooting that ball to right field every third or fourth time up at plate and get himself a really high batting average and make himself a very valuable offensive player again. So I think that he deserves to be one of the starting shortstops on a Major League Baseball team. But we're going to find out if a team would rather pay him to do that or stick with the guy they got that they can call up from AAA and say, all right, we'll see how it goes. Because there are some teams out there that are not going to contend for playoff spots this year that would be wise to go get Tim Anderson.
Hey, I thought the Angels would have made sense. I thought, him and Ron Washington could have been a fun pairing. We know Ron's helped guys improve defensively. So if, TA could be a little bit better defensively, maybe people would be willing to take more chances on the bat bouncing back. Yep. But that just seems like it hasn't come to fruition. I couldn't tell you the Angels shortstop. I don't do an Angels podcast. Do you know the Angels shortstop?
I kind of do.
You do?
It's a young guy.
Is it? I don't know.
No, it is. He's really good. I think he's really good at defense, but bad at hitting. What's his name?
Zach Nita.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's not.
He's one letter away from being Adrian Nieto.
A couple. The first name doesn't really.
Oh, well, sure.
Yeah, sure. Zach Nita. I kind of remember him. He's from Campbell University. He was there.
The Campbells.
The Campbells.
Yeah.
He was a 13th overall pick in 2022. All right.
Came up pretty early.
Yeah. Hey, 1.1 WAR with an 89 weighted runs created plus. So
I was right. Mm-hmm. Good at defense, bad at hitting.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Good job. Pat yourself on the back.
Right.
All the young, but young.
So, but Paul DeYoung had some pop. Paul DeYoung had 20 homers.
He's got a 30-homer season.
Does he?
Yeah.
Paul DeYoung, yeah.
Oh, well, that was the 2019 year, was it?
Sure. That's
Who led Major League Baseball in home runs that year? The Minnesota Twins. Doesn't count.
But the Yankees also hit a bunch of home runs too that year, like 303 or something like that. Yeah. So those don't count?
No, it doesn't count.
Okay. We just erase those.
So you brought up him going oppo. I've brought up that graphic before. It's something that it was pre-groin injury and post-groin injury where Tim just really wasn't generating that same pop going to the opposite field. So from 2020 to that groin injury, May 30th, 2022, he saw 192 pitches going the opposite field. He had a 489 batting average, a 431 batting average on balls in play, and his average exit velocity was 89.8. Average distance, 230 feet. Hard hit rate, 42.2. Vinny's yawning already as I'm reading all these numbers off. I know it's been a long, tired, sick.
Yeah, I was going to say, call me. It's not the numbers. It's the fact that I haven't slept in 2 days.
Just giving you shit. But then post injury to the end of 2023, 141 pitches, only a 350 batting average. So I'm going from 489 to 350. His BABIP going from 348 to from 431. So it dipped from 431 to 348. Only 4 barrels compared to 25 in that span from 2020 to 2022. His average exit velocity went from 89.8 to 85.6. His average distance went from 230 feet to 182 feet, and his hard hit rate went from 42.2 to 39. So falling off about 3.2%. He's just not generating that same power. And I think, too, part of that is it doesn't seem like he's really generating the same power on breaking balls, because in that same sample where he's hitting 350 to the opposite field and only generating 85.6 average exit velocity, his run value on fastballs, four-seamers, 3.9, run value on sinkers, 1.5, run value on cutters, 1.3. So it's just breaking stuff that's absolutely killing him. And I don't even know if he can just generate the power that's necessary to get those balls to the outfield. Like, I really do think that there's something in his lower half that is holding him back because...
Well, there is.
The injury, right?
He had a groin injury in 2022, and he had a knee injury in 2023.
Right.
And he basically played with that knee injury all year long.
I just don't know if a guy that relied so much on his athleticism was drafted that highly because of his athleticism, if it's going to bounce back at 31. And I know, like, for me, a guy that's never been dirty, it's tough to call someone washed, but like, hey, here we are. I'm calling Tim Anderson, I think, washed. Like, it just seems like the body is giving out on him.
I mean, a growing injury doesn't necessarily zap your power, but a growing injury can get you into bad balance, and that's probably the most important thing as a hitter. If you talk to Ted Williams, if you talk to Tony Gwynn Jr., or Tony Gwynn Sr., not Gwynn Jr., and so
he sucked.
I mean, he was all right,
but he made the major leagues.
But you need your lower half. You need your hips to fire, and part of that is the growing, the adductor muscle. And so, yes, Tim might be not the guy that he was because of these injuries that he had. Because you look at the numbers, you look at those 19, 20, 21, and 22 years, you're like, what happened? He was weighted runs created plus at 22 of 111, and then he drops off to 60. Do you think that the guy that showed up last year is Tim Anderson? If you don't, then why is he not signed? Because there's nothing in his last year on the field that could say that guy fell off from one player in 22 to the player that showed up in 23. Like, all the things that combine with Tim Anderson, I see people talking about the drama off the field. Yes, that could contribute to his struggles last year also, but that's not a reason why you don't want him back on the team. Like, I think the player, and I was clamoring for him to come back this year. I wish they would have picked up the $14 million option. I understand why they didn't. But I see a bounce back coming for Tim Anderson because these injuries, hopefully, like Yoán Moncada, are in the past. We saw what he was doing last year before he had the knee injury. He was Tim Anderson again, right? He wasn't driving the ball necessarily over the fence, but he was hitting the ball with some authority.
It was also like single-digit games, right?
Yeah, but he was still like showing out. I mean, after he had that injury, and I got the stats in 2022, he went 248, 287, and 290 slash line. No, 1 home run and 6 RBIs. Before he was 249
From when? Sorry.
From when after he got back from the injury in June of 22. He was 249, 287, and 290 slugging. Before that, he was 356, 393, and 503 slugging percentage. So, yes, I'm highlighting your point. The growing injury did zap his power from there. They played the same amount of games. One was 39 games, one was 40 games. And you could tell after the growing injury, he was not the same person that can drive the ball, especially drive the ball to right field with a little authority. And I always think that Tim swings a little too much, but, whatever.
So there you go. There's another guy who has to prove that he's healthy and prove that once healthy, he can do what you think he can do. And so that's why a prove-it deal makes plenty of sense. And I think that it would make plenty of sense for plenty of teams out there. I mean, how many teams right now teams right now are going to be contending for a division title going into the year? It's not 30.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? And
we can count out the A's.
I'm just saying, You're telling me that Tim Anderson can't get a cheap major league deal from the A's? A cheap major league deal from pick your bottom of a division team across baseball? Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I mean, this bottom division team, the White Sox, they can use him.
He would be. I fail to see how he would not be a benefit to them offensively. Now, defensive is a different story, and certainly, like you said, you understood why the White Sox didn't make the move to bring him back. Not only is it save them money in terms of what they're doing from a payroll standpoint, but their whole intention was to get better defensively this offseason. And getting Paul DeJong over Tim Anderson is a defensive improvement. But there have got to be teams out there that could use Tim Anderson. It would baffle me if you were to look at it and say, every team's set, every shortstop in baseball is better than TA.
The Rays? I'm
sure they have some guy.
They could possibly take a shot. They do. They literally have a guy that I think is top 50 already. Yeah. That's a top prospect that plays shortstop. Taylor Walls is there too. I don't know if this is projected numbers, but he looks, like he's been all right, but I know that he's kind of been replaced. I think Calabero is the guy that's going to be replacing Franco. But the Rays, maybe. I don't think the A's have a reason to sign him just because they had Tony Kemp, and I think they're kind of ushering in their newer players because Galloff's there. He's playing second.
You got to get people out to that ballpark in Sacramento.
That's where they're playing?
Well, I think this year they're playing at the Coliseum, but they're on the hunt for somewhere to play in the years between 25 and it's like 3 or 4 years where they need to play somewhere before the ballpark's done in Vegas, and they're considering a lot of AAA stadiums.
Yeah. And your growing on theory also kind of supports his errors in the field last year. I know he didn't necessarily have a growing injury last year. He had more of the knee, but that affects you more when you're throwing the ball. And so we can see a better Tim Anderson with all the rest he's had, and he's 2 years removed from the growing injury, and the knees should be fine now.
It's a guy that it's easy to root for. I would love to see TA bounce back, but again, I think that, he just kind of is zapped, and I think the reason why he doesn't have a market is just because I don't think teams are interested. I don't know if there is truly a spot where he is the best option for a team. From 2021 to 2022, where that groin injury is, he had 230 pitches where he hit over 95 miles per hour. He had a 539 batting average on those. Those balls went 194 feet. After the groin injury, only 199 pitches, a 411 batting average, so cut by basically 130 points or something like that. And the distance went from 194 to 168. He's just not generating the same power. He's not even when you look at this list, I think it's like 53 or wait. I'll need to rephrase that. I don't want to confuse people by throwing out numbers because I'm confusing myself. But you look at, when you break it down by event, there's a lot of the ones that are 95 and over that are just field out, grounded into double play. He's not generating the same power. He's not generating the same lift. I don't think he's really being able to attack the ball. And we saw him go to drive line, and it really just didn't bear that much fruit. And maybe it did. Maybe we saw a little bit of that.
And you never found out, right?
World Baseball Classic, and then the thing happened in Minnesota where it's either Hans or Alberto's fault or not. Was it?
It was Hans or Alberto's fault.
Okay,
yes.
cool. All right. Thanks, Hanser. All right, let's take a break, and we'll let you know about our friends over at CIRCA Sportsbook and our friend over at ComEd. We want to let you know about our friends over at CIRCA Sportsbook. Obviously, there's the big game coming up, and if you are looking to get the best lines, you'll find them at CIRCA Sportsbook, the world's largest sportsbook. Games will strive to be a -110 split on the CIRCA Sports menu, unlike other sportsbooks, which may use a -115 or -120 split. CIRCA Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets like futures and golf tournaments, especially compared to other books, which allows them to keep these lines favorable to you, the better. And what's most favorable to bettors is they're not going to limit you. CIRCA Sports does not limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. They encourage bettors to download and explore other sporting back apps available in Illinois, so you can compare the lines from each sports book. And most of, if not all the time, you will find that the world's largest sports book, CIRCA Sportsbook, has the best lines for you to bet. So download the CIRCA Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app. That's circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also be on the lookout for CIRCA events, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537, text GMB to 833-234, or visit areyourreallywinning.com.
Hey, Vinny, it is getting easier for businesses to switch to electric vehicles. That's something we can all get behind for the health of the planet and the well-being of all of us who share it.
Great point, Herb. The electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs as we all move with confidence toward an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can help guide you to make the changes that make sense.
So what should business owners do?
What they should do is go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today to switch to electric vehicles. They're good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
Did you say ComEd.com/clean?
You better believe I did. Go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
Thanks, guys. Let's jump into our final discussion point. And if you didn't see, Alex Anthopoulos, the Braves general manager, was on 680 AM in Atlanta, and they were at the ballpark. They were at Truist Field, and they had this seemingly nice event where, Alex Anthopoulos was inside this room talking with, radio hosts, just kind of like we are today. And behind them is a glass outside to the concourse, the outfield concourse. So you can see the field behind Alex Anthopoulos. You can see the fans outside of the glass, and one of the fans holds up a phone to Alex Anthopoulos and says, "Trade for Dylan Cease." Alex Anthopoulos says, "We already tried, too expensive." So I don't know if that's a good thing. And also, first off, is it a good thing that an active GM is saying Dylan Cease, someone that the White Sox are trying to trade, is too expensive? Is that a bad sign for active first-time GM Chris Getz? And or does it just more signal that the Braves are poor?
No, I don't know if it does either of those things. I think it confirms that what everybody's been saying, that the White Sox are asking for a very big and good return package in exchange for a guy who is one of the better pitchers in baseball should everything go his way. So I think that, when you hear that from a GM, that it makes a lot of sense that nothing has happened yet. And, too expensive, it means something different in a trade than it does, obviously, when you're talking about a free agent. I know the video that you're talking about, and he made the $ gesture, but he's talking about prospects. And so, obviously, if the White Sox were having trade conversations with the Braves, it involved probably Chris Getz asking for some really, really good prospects or a lot of good prospects. So, that the Braves didn't want to make that move is not surprising because nobody else in baseball has wanted to make that move so far. And it sure seems that signs are pointing to the desperation of the trade deadline perhaps being the thing that finally gets Dylan Cease traded to another team.
I'm not a fan of general managers pretty much calling out other general managers, and that's what I took of that, where Alex is talking about Chris Getz is pretty much saying that he has way too high of a price for Dylan Cease. He should have a high price. If you want him, you got to meet it. But yeah, to say that on a public atmosphere, I'm not a fan of that. Maybe you could say that in private to Chris by himself. Yeah, that's good. Or have sources leak that out like the Cincinnati Reds and their people did. But yeah, I'm not a fan of that. It's not a good look for him. And dealing with Alex in the future, Chris and Alex, they maybe look past it. But I'm sure some bad bloods there. I know they worked out a deal early in the offseason. Two. I forgot. But I'm not a fan of that. I'm not, especially with Chris Getz being such a young general manager in the game. You don't need to do that. You don't need to say all that stuff because to me it seems like you're playing I'm a professional general manager. This guy is asking for way too much because he doesn't know what he's doing. That's how I read it, at least.
I don't know if I took it that way. I mean, that's an interesting take for sure. I just seemed like Alex Anthopoulos was being jovial, seemed like it was a party, seemed like someone did something funny, so he tried to say something funny back. Also, Braves don't even have a top 50 prospect. Braves can't make a deal. The Braves are broke. Honestly, I said, are the Braves poor? I was hoping one of you would say yes. What are the Braves going to offer? The White Sox are looking for one of the Orioles' top, 530 prospects? So you're going to take either A.J. Shar Smith or Huston Waldrop.
Well, that's easy for you to say.
Yeah, definitely. Right? I didn't make these names up. A.J. Smith Shar and Hurston Waldrop.
And you know that he was willing and wanting to trade Grisham. And that was probably part of the trade because Grisham went in the trade for Chris Sale.
And he didn't want Grisham.
No.
What were you offering to the White Sox? I think the Braves probably had the 11th best offer to even offer the White Sox. The Yankees could easily beat that with Jones or Dominguez. The Orioles could beat that with offering one of their prospects. I don't see them being a true contender. And I thought it was just more of, hey, that's in the past. We're having fun. Why are you even asking me about it? I don't know if it was negative from Anthopoulos.
I felt it was. I mean, he couldn't. I mean, no one when the booth was asking him this question, as we know on radio, you're not playing to the audience that's in front of you. You're playing to the audience that can hear your voice, and those people can't.
Yeah, but Anthopoulos doesn't know that. He's a GM. He's not a radio host.
Well, he should know that. He should get used to that because, answering questions to the people outside the glass is never a good thing when you're on remote. Just for you radio people out here.
Alrighty. I don't know where to take that one.
Herb, he's calling back on his years of expertise having worked at the Today Show, obviously. Yeah.
No, whatever.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I don't even know what I was.
They're famous for having the people stand outside the glass with the signs.
I was thinking of 30 Rock.
Herb was drinking wine with Kathy Lee Griffin for many years.
And Hodakapi, of course.
I did that once when I was a kid.
Getting drunk?
No, I
with Hodakapi?
I went outside the Today Show.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Was that in Times
Did you
Square?
have a sign?
No, it's not in Times Square. My mom was a huge fan of the Today Show, and I was there with my sister, so I sort of got dragged along. We didn't have a sign. I think it's near the Rockefeller Center.
Yeah, that's where the building was.
And
that makes sense.
we saw Snooki, so it was worth it.
Hell yeah.
That was cool.
Is that a rap person?
Snooki.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the
No,
person
she's from the Jersey Shore.
Oh, reality TV person.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Annoying voice.
Staying on your feet.
Yeah.
She got arrested once. You ever see that? She got punched too. Did she?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Club.
Yeah, all right.
Isn't that how you get on reality TV? You have to get
That's
arrested?
the show, yeah.
Isn't reality TV just community service?
Kind of, yeah. We'll expand more on that tomorrow. Maybe we won't, because we'll have an actual serious guest, a real guest, a professional baseball person joining us. Bob Kendrick of the Negro League Museum will be joining us at, we figured out if it's 4. It's
4 o'clock.
But is our show at 4?
Yeah,
Okay.
our show's at 4.
So our
too.
show's at 4, and Bob will be joining us at 4. So join us at 4.
Unless the White Sox sign Cody Bellinger, I'll bump Bob. I'll say
We're gonna bump Bob
I'll
Kendrick.
say, hey Bob, 4:30, cool. The White Sox sign
I thought you were just
Cody Bellinger.
meant he was going to get bumped from the show. We'll
No.
talk to you next week, Bob.
No.
All right. Well, that's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can read his work at allchgo.com. This is Herb Lawrence, our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson. That's Joey Spathis, who produced our show. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 4. Bye.